Welcome to the Activated Storytellers 89th podcast.
This episode's story is the story of the Boo Brothers from Korea.
Hi, I'm Dennis.
And I'm Kimberly. And together we are
the Activated Storytellers.
And we are coming to you from Colorado Springs, Colorado.
Home of the Air Force Academy.
And usually home of lots of snow.
But right now there is no snow. However, we did encounter some just before we got here. We were in Taos, New Mexico.
And before that we hit some snow in Memphis.
That's right. First snow of the year for us, of the season for us, was in Memphis, Tennessee, of all places.
Yep, kind of held us up for a little bit, but we got going again and made it fine to our... We had a big drive this past month coming from Florida up through Mississippi, Alabama, Mississippi, into a little bit of Tennessee, just Memphis, and then across Arkansas and out 40 into New Mexico for some shows in March.
And we spent a couple of days in Mobile, Alabama, where we caught a couple of Mardi Gras parades. Yes, they do have Mardi Gras in Mobile. In fact, they have a lot of Mardi Gras in Mobile. Mobile was the first American city to celebrate Mardi Gras. And
I enjoy the parades a lot. It's a lot of fun. You don't need the beads that they throw you, but boy, is it fun to get them. You just like, throw me beads, throw me beads.
I kept wanting some of the peanuts they were throwing, salted peanuts in the shell, but I never got any.
My favorite thing is the stuffed animals, and if you're really lucky, you can catch a stuffed animal. I caught one this year. I had one from a previous Mardi Gras we went to, and I called him Marty, and he's a little black teddy bear that he's in our shows, actually. He's the big, scary teddy bear in some of our shows and on stage. And now this year I got a little, I guess he's a panther, or I don't know, he's green, and he's got stripes, and his name's Gras.
Now, Mardi Gras celebration in Mobile dates back to 1703, and they've been having the parade since about 1830. And the parade started as a spontaneous thing. Some fellow decided he'd just go out and get a bunch of people together on the spur of the moment. And
I thought it had roots in Rome and Europe.
Well, that's true, but they didn't call it Mardi Gras then. In ancient Rome, they had a feast called the Lupercalia, and so Mardi Gras developed out of that. And then they had a similar celebration, or usually referred to as Carnival, and that took place in Europe during the Middle Ages. But Mardi Gras grew out of that when European settlers, especially French settlers, came to the Gulf of Mexico area.
So a little background on Mardi Gras. And we were able to go to, after our shows in New Mexico, we headed to some territory that we have not been to yet, over the mountains on a little dinky road. I think it was 64 we went, east on 64. And first of all, there's some very, very strange white trucks that just kept passing. I don't know if there was some kind of like company trucks or something, but they were all white, and they were all mysterious, and they all had flags, and it was weird. And then we went into Taos, New Mexico.
Yeah, Taos, New Mexico is a really interesting little town. It's a town with a population of about 4,000, but there are a lot of tourists there because there's a ski resort nearby, and the ski resort itself is supposed to, we didn't get to see it, but it's supposed to be something very interesting, like a little Swiss village. And also, about a mile and a half out of town is the Taos Pueblo, an ancient Native American dwelling, which is believed to be 1,000 years old.
And still inhabited, and still Native Americans living very traditional lives.
That's right. There are about 150 people who live in the Pueblo now, and they live without electricity.
So do we.
Or without running water.
So do we.
Well, we do have a water faucet in our motorhome, but we don't connect to city water as a rule. And anyway, they have to get their water from a river, even in the winter when it's frozen over.
We weren't able to see it this year because they were closed for tribal ceremonies, but we would love to go back and visit the Taos Pueblo.
And the whole town of Taos itself is modeled kind of like a pueblo, all adobe buildings and houses and so on. Very interesting.
Yeah, I enjoy the whole from Albuquerque, Santa Fe, and Farmington. A lot of adobe-style buildings there, very traditional. I love it because you wake up in Albuquerque, you look out and you don't even see the adobes to begin with, and then you realize that they're there. That's just how well they blend in with the landscape.
Oh, I wanted to mention that Taos was the home of Kit Carson, the famous explorer, scout, trapper, and Army officer. His home is there, open for tours. Kit Carson was apparently an ancestor of Johnny Carson, the Tonight Show host. Johnny Carson had claimed that when he was living, so I don't know if it's true or not, but that is what he said.
Quite possible, quite possible. Well, we do have a story for you this episode, and it is the story of the Boo Brothers. But first of all, we want to point out that Library Week is coming up. We are heading west for Library Week. That's going to be in April, and it is April 12th to the 18th. We will be performing in Sacramento, California that week, and we've got a number of shows in the San Francisco Bay Area right before it. So first, a word about Library Week.
In today's tough economy, where is the one place you can go to get help with a resume, learn new job skills, connect to the internet, and discover new books, movies, and games, all for free? You can do all of that and more at your library. This is National Library Week. Check out your local library and see how you can make your worlds connect at your library. A message from the American Library Association's Campaign for America's Libraries and Library Champions. For more information, visit ilovelibraries.org/National Library Week.
And that was Jamie Lee Curtis. Thanks for dropping by.
Yeah, Jamie, you're looking good these days.
You know, we wanted to ask her what she thought of our RV, but she just had to go. She's on such a schedule. And now, the story of the Boo Brothers from Korea.
There were once two brothers named Nolbu and Hungbu. Their father was very rich. Unfortunately for him, he was also very dead. And when he died, he left his money to his sons. But Nolbu, who was older, was also greedier.
Why should I have to share the fortune with my little brother? He wouldn't even know what to do with it.
So he sneaked into the place where his father kept his money and took most of it for himself before it was time to divide the money.
Oh, Hongbu! Oh, my little brother!
Yes?
The time has come to divvy up our late father's money.
Very well, if we must.
This is the chest that he kept his money in, but I put he put a lock on it, and I don't have the key, so we'll have to break it open.
Very well, then, if we must.
Hey-ya! Ow! Oh, I think I broke my hand.
Here, let me try.
Hey, how'd you do that?
Easy, I just pulled on it instead of whacking it.
Oh, well, let's see what's inside. Well, I'm afraid there's only $20 in it, or 20 of whatever we're using for money. So that's 10 for you and 10 more, 10 for me.
Well, it may not be much, but I am grateful for it, especially if it's all Father had.
Now, not long after this, both brothers got married. Nolbu and his wife, having most of the father's money, lived very comfortably. But Hungbu and his wife had to just live by their wits.
Oh, my wife, I am tired of living by our wits. The landlord will not accept wit as payment anymore.
Not only that, but we have even spent half our wits. Now we're just half-wits.
What are we going to do? How are we going to feed our children?
What children? We have no children.
Oh, that's right. No wonder they never help with the chores. I forget things easily when my blood sugar is so low.
You know, that brother of yours always seems to have plenty of money and plenty of food. Why don't you go over and ask if we can borrow a little rice?
Well, I guess it wouldn't hurt, except my pride, maybe.
So Hungbu went over to his brother's house and said,
Excuse me, oh my dear, adorable, favorite brother in all the world, but I was wondering if by any chance I might borrow a cup of rice?
What? Do you think rice grows on trees? I barely can afford to feed my 52 servants, and the government's already trying to tax my summer residence. I certainly can't afford to feed a no-good brother who can't take care of himself. Now, get out of here before I become considerably less compassionate.
So sadly and hungrily, Hungbu made his way back home. But on the way, he saw something. Well, he saw many things, actually, but there was one thing in particular that caught his attention.
Well, hello there. It's a bird, and it seems to have a broken leg. Poor little thing. Well, if it can't fly, then it's at the mercy of wild beasts. I better take it home and mend its leg.
And later, back at home,
Yoo-hoo! Oh, wife, it's later and I'm home.
Oh, it's about time. Did you get rice? Why, what's this? He gave you a bird instead? Well, it's kind of scrawny, but better than nothing. I'll get the stove going.
No. The bird is not to eat. He's wounded, so I brought him home to be his friend.
Did you spend the last of your wits? How can we possibly afford a friend? Friends need to eat.
Well, I couldn't just leave him in the forest. He needs medical attention.
How do you expect to keep a bird when we can't even afford a newspaper?
Well, we'll manage somehow. We must do it. It's the right thing to do.
So they kept the bird during most of the winter months until its leg healed. They dug worms from the yard for food and even shared them with the bird. And finally, the bird was well enough to fly away.
Bye-bye, birdie. Come again whenever you can.
And the little birdie accepted the invitation. On the first day of spring, he returned.
Hello, little birdie. Good to see you again. Why, what do you have there in your beak? A seed? Oh, excellent, I guess. Now that it's spring, we can plant it in the garden and see what grows.
Well, our depths are growing for one thing, but Hung Bu planted the seed. And the very next morning...
What? I don't believe it. Oh, wife, come look what grew overnight in our garden.
What? A giant beanstalk?
No, gourds. Dozens and dozens of gourds.
Gourds. Terrific. We have no food, but at least we can get a job playing percussion in a marimba band.
I don't know. There's something mighty peculiar about these gourds.
Oh, you and your ideas. First they were for the birds, then they went to seed, and now you're totally out of your gourd. I've had enough.
Hey, what are you doing? Don't smash them.
Oh, my word. It's full of rice.
No way. Why, so it is. I never heard of rice coming out of a gourd. It must be genetically modified. Let's try another one. Why, this one is full of walnuts.
And this one has silk.
Gold.
Frankincense.
Garlic.
And this one is full of money.
Oh, wife, we're rich. We can build a new house, have plenty to eat, buy a horse and the latest model carriage. We can even buy you a name so I don't have to call you wife anymore.
And things went very well for them indeed. But things did not go well for the other brother, Gol Bu. His crops failed, his livestock died, his wife left him, and the house burned down. So he came to ask his brother for some rice.
Well, of course I will give you some rice. After all, you are my brother, even if you don't always act like it.
Oh, thank you, my brother. I much appreciate it. But tell me, how did you get to be so successful all of a sudden?
So Hung Bu told his brother Gol Bu all about the bird and the seed and the gourds. So when Hung Bu wasn't looking, Gol Bu sneaked out into the garden and stole one of the gourds for himself.
If he got all this just by planting a seed, oh, how much more will I get by planting a whole gourd?
So he planted the gourd he had stolen, and then bright and early the next morning...
Yes, a whole garden full of gourds, just as I expected. Ha! And it looks like I don't even have to break them open. They're breaking open all by themselves. What's this? A monster? And another one? Oh no! They're taking over the place!
And so they did. They lived in the woods on his land and caused all kinds of mischief until he had to leave. But his brother Hung Bu, because it was his brother, took Gol Bu in to live on his own huge estate, as long as he promised to behave himself.
Okay.
And that's the story of
The Bu Brothers.
From Korea.
that story we picked out especially for spring.
Yes, because it deals with the beginning of spring and a bird and planting seed and so on.
Yes, and spring is just about here. Oh, leprechaun's coming soon too.
Right. As we record this, the leprechaun will be here in less than a week.
Yep. Well, we'll have this up for you to listen to by March 15th. So it'll be a couple days that the leprechaun will be scampering around. So see if you can catch the leprechaun.
Okay, and what do we have coming up?
Well, I already talked about our shows in April. We do have shows coming up in San Leandro, Tiburon, Fairfield, and Modesto, that's April 8th, 9th, 10th, and 11th. And then starting April 14th, 15th, 16th, and 17th, we have 6 shows in the Sacramento County area. That's Sacramento, Galt, Fairfield, Antelope, Fair Oaks, and around that area. There is information about those shows on our website.
That's activated-storytellers.com.
/schedule HTML.
And speaking of Sacramento, we'd like to play you a little promo for a podcast that comes out of the Sacramento area. This is the Prosperity Podcast. We think you'll find it very interesting.
Hi, I'm Julia.
And I'm Ira.
And we're from the Prosperity Podcast.
And we want to invite you all to listen.
Because we offer tools for helping you feel happier in your lives. Gosh, we all need that.
Life can be very frustrating, especially when you're young and people are always telling you to be quiet.
And be good.
And be good. And we can tell you how you can be good and like it.
Well, we'll help you cope with your parents, cope with your school and your schoolmates, and give you all kinds of great ideas. We'll have some fun along the way, and you'll enjoy our stories. So do listen up. We'd love to hear from you too. Feel free to write us, and we hope you enjoy our podcast.
And on the way to the West Coast, we'll be making some stops in Denver and going through Wyoming. We have a residency at a school in Wyoming.
Yes, Saratoga, Wyoming will be on the way. And then we will be kicking off. We got some shows up in Washington as well in May. And then kicking off summer reading programs in June, starting in Monterey, California. And by the end of summer, we will be in Medford, Massachusetts. So we are actually covering coast to coast this summer with lots of shows in between. And as always, we are taking comments, voicemail, and suggestions for stories. Give us a call, 206-426-0436. Also, if you are on Facebook, you can find me. Just look for Kimberly Goza, G-O-Z-A. That's Kimberly, G-O-Z-A. I'm the one that looks like a spider, and add me as a friend.
I'm on Facebook, yes. And I have a name, too.
What's your name, Dennis?
I'm trying to remember. It starts with a letter of the alphabet.
You can find Dennis at Dennis Goza. So add us as friends, and we'll see you there.
Thanks for listening. Until next time.
The Activated Storytellers perform at schools and libraries nationwide. On stage, we use American Sign Language, physical comedy, imaginative props, and a giant, oversized book to bring the stories to life. For booking information, check our website at www.activated-storytellers.com, where you can also find out when the Activated Storytellers will be performing near you. Read a story or order one of our audio CDs. Until next time.